Worldview Tube, a Brannon House television network.
The Tamara Scott Show. Tamara has served as the state director for one of America's largest pro-life, pro-family public policy organizations. In 2007, Tamara was named one of America's top 10 most influential kingmakers by the Religion News Association. Tamara has spent years proclaiming and defending the values of a Christian worldview that is the foundation of our constitutional republic. And now, here is your host, Tamara Scott.
Hey everybody, welcome. It is the Tamara Scott Show where we help you live God's Word in today's world when the headlines hit home. And you can watch this show any day live at noon, 12 p.m. Central Time, or you can watch these shows. They're complimentary for about 7 days after they air, and then they go to the worldviewtube.com/fault. Got it out there without messing it up. worldviewtube.com/fault, where you can, with a subscription, get all of these shows, our incredible guests, and the shows that Brannon House does. Every show on the network. But Brannon's been at this for 35 plus years. So you get all of his documentaries, his presentations, so much information, good information for you. All right. And Thomas, we should say it, you're putting some of our shows online so people can get them on YouTube. So if you want information on that, you can email us at thetamarascottshow@gmail.com. But some of them right there on YouTube, you're making Worldview Tube TV, Worldview Tube TV accessible. And we so appreciate that because we have great guests, and every so often people want the information, but they can't for some reason remember the guest name or the date of the show. And so this is a great way to do it. Thank you so much for that, Worldview Tube TV on YouTube. Thank you so much, Thomas. I appreciate you doing that, and then I don't have to mess with it. You're seeing in studio with me is John Stratman. John is from Iowa. Been working and doing this, at least 3 elections that I know of, John, where you have gone back through, figured out the numbers and the statistics, and given us the actual facts. So we don't have to just listen to all the falsehoods that people are saying. We can just see it right before us. So we'll talk about that in a minute, and then also popping on is David Oldham. David was with us. He's the one who had that town hall meeting on the mosque that was proposed for a piece of property in Oklahoma, and he kept it constitutional. He just went on the zoning ordinances, the septic, what the groundwater could, just what the land itself could do well, and it wasn't a good setting, and they won. The city council listened to them, and they won. The people won. He just opened it up and had a meeting at a ballroom in a local hotel, and people came. I'm telling you, as Ronald Reagan told you, showing up is much of the battle. And so he gave them an avenue, and they won. Well, he's going to come on and talk about the Convention of States from his perspective. He doesn't oppose the Convention of States because it's in the convention, the Constitution, but he opposes the way it's being promoted and the fact that you have no control of it. So we'll talk about that. And he also has some interesting experiences with the folks at Convention of States that might be interesting to some of you. And then Michael Boyle from South Dakota will come on and give us the update there. They are in the heat of the battle. We had a hearing here in Iowa, but they've had a hearing, and then they have something they call smoking it out. They have 3 days. When it fails, and it failed in the Iowa House, in this South Dakota House, it failed. And I'm told the looks on Meckler's face and Santorum's face was priceless. People wish they had it on video, but it failed. And so now those folks are trying very hard, 3 more days, to get it through. So we'll talk about that. All right, John, let's come to the hearing you had yesterday first. No?
Okay.
Or should we do term limits? Because I do want to, let's do the term limits, because I want to get to the term limits.
Okay.
All right, so Thomas, you've got a slide. You want to put that slide up? I think it's number 2 that has all of the stats for Iowa House, U.S. Senate. I think I labeled it number 2. Nope. Oh, maybe I labeled it number 1. The other one. Let's put the other one up. There you go.
There you go.
Probably my bad. There you go. Thank you. All right, John, explain this to us at the very top there.
Okay. So, there's a lot of debate goes on, should we have term limits or not, wherever you are in that issue. But I always believe you ought to at least have the underlying data to help you form your opinion. So starting in 2015, we've been tracking the turnover of incumbents in both the Iowa General Assembly and in the U.S. Congress. And so at the top of that table, you see the number of incumbents replaced in each chamber by year in a non-election year. Not a lot, but you'll have incumbents that resign for whatever reason, or maybe they pass away or whatever, but you have some replacements in a non-election year. But then in the center, you see during the number of incumbents replaced in an election year. So you see that's pretty significant number. The average, for example, in the U.S. House in an election year is 73 incumbents are replaced, and in the Senate it's 10. And so then if we go down to the bottom of the chart where the summary is, so I'll just kind of go across from left to right. You see in the Iowa House there are 100 seats, and in 10 years 124 incumbents have been replaced. And then the next number down, you see still there. 16 are still there after 10 years. You go, well, how do those two numbers add up? Well, actually, that first number, 124, you'll have some seats will have incumbents replaced more than once. And so what that tells me, though, so still there, 16 still there. So only 16% of the members of the Iowa House have been there for over 10 years, or at least 10 years. The next over in the Iowa Senate has 50 seats, and 54 incumbents have been replaced in the Iowa Senate. In the last 10 years, there are 14 still there. Going over next in the U.S. House, you'll see that there in 10 years, 402 members of the Iowa House have been replaced, with 148 still there. And then in the final column, the U.S. Senate, you'll see that 55 senators have been replaced in the last 10 years, with 55 still there. Now, again, in the Senate, under the Constitution, only 1/3 of the senators stand for election every 2 years. It's a 6-year term. So that's by design, intended to have more stability in that chamber. And
so when you go back 6 years, the fact that we still have that many that have been replaced with 6-year terms says quite a bit.
It is. I think it is.
All right. So, and folks, if you want this, email us at theTamaraScottShow@gmail.com, theTamaraScottShow@gmail.com. I'll try and see if I can put it on the Tamara Scott Show Facebook page as well. But you've done Iowa and the U.S. It wouldn't take much for some of you to do your own House and your own Senate, but you do have the U.S. and the U.S. Senate, House and Senate, that you can use from this.
Yeah, definitely.
And then Iowa too, we get this push, but listen, Iowa, I think I say this to you anytime we talk about it. If you go back, I don't think we've had anybody in the Congress right now, in the House, that has been there before 2020. I don't, because you had David Blum, who promotes term limits terribly, but he's the perfect example of why we don't need them. He came in 14, ousted in 18 by Abby Finkenauer, who was ousted in 2020 maybe by Ashley, or 2022.
I'll tell you in a second here.
By Ashley Hinson, who's now running for Senate. So that's going to be up for grabs again. So that's going to be at least 4 changes since 18 or 14. Then you have District 3, Zach Nunn. You have David Young, ousted by Axney, or we called her Taxney. And then she was ousted by Nunn. Then the last, let's see, what year was that?
In 23.
In 2022.
I mean, that was when he started his term.
2022. So not there. I mean, he's in his first term. And then you have the 4th district, our stronghold as far as Republicans, ousted Steve King, I think in 18.
Yeah, in 2020.
So Feenstra hasn't been there. So I don't think we have. When did Ashley come in?
Let's see. Sorry about this, folks. Ashley came in, and her first year was in 2021. So she was elected in 20.
Okay, so we haven't had anybody there before 2020.
So we dealt with this at our platform debate at our state convention last year. Folks wanted to place term limits on our U.S. House members, and I'm like, well, we don't have I don't like to take an action unless you're actually fixing a problem.
Right.
And as Tamara pointed out, Iowa only has 4 congressional districts, and all 4 of our districts have turned over at least once in recent years, some of them as much as 4 times. And 2 of them now will be 5 times because 2 of our incumbents have announced they're not seeking re-election to the U.S. House. And so I just don't, for Iowa, I don't see a problem. And nationally, I see a pretty significant amount of turnover. But, when we talk to people about term limits, we've mentioned this before, usually the person that gets mentioned to me is Representative Nancy Pelosi from California. And there's no question Nancy's been there a long time. But when I look at her House district, she's the 11th district in California on the San Francisco Peninsula. There are 8.5 registered Democrats in that district for every 1 registered Republican. So to me, the real underlying problem there is it's a non-competitive district. If Californians want to replace Nancy, it would be in the Democrat primary. No Republican candidate's going to win there until you have an electorate that's more balanced. But I would say, considering how that electorate currently is, she's probably well suited to her constituents.
Well, and people always bring her up, but as you've pointed out, we don't live in her district. So you could put term limits on every state you like, but you can't fix her district because we don't vote on her district. In Iowa, we just went through the House, and yes, we have Senator Grassley, who's been there I don't know how many years. But as you pointed out earlier today, in what election was it where he won 98 of the 99 counties?
Yeah, it was not the last time he was elected, which he did well, but the one before that, he won 98 of Iowa's 99 counties.
He's very well respected. And so we're not going to like the votes anybody makes all the time, every single vote. But he's very well respected amongst the whole state, Republicans and Democrats. And so I just don't think this term limit thing is helpful. We talked about it a little bit today. People admitted the bureaucrats will run the show. The bureaucrats will be shoving things through that they want. They're already putting bills in our House here in Iowa, in their state House. They're doing it in other states. It's not their role. It's not their place. But if you have people who are new, 1, they're a little timid. 2, they don't know what's going on. They don't know what they don't know. Some of them are pretty braggadocious about the few little things they do know. And at that, I'm talking about candidates as much as anything. But they don't know what they don't know yet. Mm-hmm. And your bureaucrats will just drag you along until they get you in a position where they don't have to deal with you anymore, or you're ousted. Also, the lobbyists. Now, one of our senators today in another state felt like the lobbyists weren't able to really hook their fingers into someone who hadn't been there for so long. At the same time, I will say those folks don't know the problems with some of those lobbyists, and they're more susceptible to what they're saying. And I will say this, I say it all the time. When they know your term limits, they know exactly when they're up. They're even on South Dakota's website when someone's going to be up. So your outside groups are going to be paying attention and grooming. And someone texted me today and said they're already grooming. You're absolutely correct. We've seen it like never before. So they're grooming because they know in 2025 or 6 or 2027 or 8, somebody who's up. The people who are making a living and are supposed to be represented by these folks, I guarantee you aren't paying attention. And so by the time those folks figure out, gee, our representative is not running again, we better come up with a replacement. They've already had somebody in the news assigned to a committee, name recognition out there. They're already building the fervor behind the candidate they want, whether it's a lobbyist group, whether it's a establishment party group, whoever it is, and the media will help always moderates and liberals, not conservatives.
Definitely.
So once you get a conservative elected, it is your responsibility to keep them in office as long as you want them. It's your liberty to keep them in office as long as you want them. So anything more on this?
Yeah, I would say some of the comments also that we had heard previously that were interesting, that if you have term limits, the numbers that we showed earlier on incumbents replaced, if you have term limits, somebody that wants to run for office may not challenge an incumbent. Right. They may just sit on the sidelines and wait until that incumbent's term is up, their term limited out. And so you may have less turnover during their term. Also, to pick like on a senator with certainly in the U.S. Senate with a 6-year term, if you know they're term limited and they're in their last term, their allegiance may begin to gradually shift from representing their electorate to maybe shifting to what's going to come after they leave office.
Absolutely. We've heard that before. The Articles of Confederation had term limits. They took them out because of that reason. They were making hay while the sun shined. That's corruption. That is more corruption than holding them accountable, you as the voter. When you lose your opportunity to elect them or eject them, you lose your voice. Pure and simple. And that's not what our founding fathers wanted. And it's at the consent of the governed, and it needs to be us at elections as well. And there was one more point I was going to make on that, the lobbyist, and I can't think now what it is. But we had people commenting that you're absolutely correct. They're already seeing some. Oh, and even the people who were defending term limits said, I've been a little bit more bold this term because it's my last. Well, why weren't you bold before? So there you go. And Santorum, who promotes term limits, said, maybe Noem will step out and do blah, blah, blah because she knows she's not running again. He admitted it right then. And to all of you, you know it. It's always the second term of a president. If they ever disappoint us, it's usually that second term because they know they're not getting back in, which is why Ronald Reagan was going to fight term limits on the presidency after he retired. He made that comment to a reporter because he thought it took away the liberty of the people. All right, we've got to go to a break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. More people joining us on this discussion.
Do you like drinking toxins that could cause cancer, inflammation, and all kinds of other autoimmune diseases? Of course you don't. Well, much of our water in America is full of toxins. That's a proven fact. WorldviewWater.net. WorldviewWater.net is your solution so that you can drink good, clean water. In fact, I give it to all my 3 fur babies, all my 3 dogs. I have one under my kitchen sink, one of these filters, as well as on my shower. WorldviewWater.net.
I need to tell you about our Bella Grace. The slender little sachet has the elixir with the collagen, astaxanthin, and cat's paw. In 2022, got an award for helping with cognitive function, and in 2023 in the sports arena for active ingredients, nutrition, and format. But the best is what we hear from so many of you. You have noticed better joint health, improved mobility, less eye strain and fatigue, helping with computer vision syndrome, visual acuity, depth perception, alleviating dry eyes, but also helping with your immunity, your stress management, endurance, less fatigue overall, not just eye fatigue, muscle recovery, mental clarity, focus, and gut health. Then there's the fun list. The firmer, smoother skin texture, fewer fine lines and wrinkles, improved skin elasticity, decreased age spots, more even skin tone, improved skin hydration, reduced oxidative stress, healthier nails, less cellulite, hair health, better sleep. Who wouldn't want any of those? Call them beauty items if you wish, but who doesn't want to feel a little bit better or more confident when you're going to present in the public square, when you're going to speak at a city council? And who just doesn't want to feel a little healthier? Maybe they're just byproducts of being healthier. More information at tamara.bellagraceglobal.com, tamara.bellagraceglobal.com.
I'm thinking.
Hey, everybody. We're in discussions. All right, Thomas, is our other guest in the waiting room yet? Oh, excellent. Let's go ahead and bring him in. This is David Ullman from Oklahoma. You can find him at Constitutional Grounds, constitutionalgrounds.com. We talked to him on the Sharia law when he was so kind to create an opportunity for people in Oklahoma to figure out what was going on. And they went to their city council. I think you had 1,300 people at that meeting, I heard, and they listened to you. It worked. It worked. When people show up, you gave them an avenue, David. Thank you.
Oh, hey, it was what we do. We do that every day here.
All right. So I'm going to continue our discussion with John Stratman from Iowa. And John, I wish you would have seen the stats, David. He just gave us the numbers on the percentages of House members and Senate members in Iowa at the U.S. level that have made it through the past 3 elections. Oh, you did?
I saw
good.
Them.
It kind of defeats, I think it defeats their term limits argument. What do you think?
Well, yes, and there are studies that differ on the purpose for term limits. Let's remember, their purpose for term limits is supposedly to cut down on corruption. And some studies have actually shown that corruption goes up It's certainly the studies, I think, tend to agree that the incidence of corruption goes up. The question about the overall magnitude of the corruption, how much they get away with per event and in total, that arguably could drop a little bit with term limits, depending upon the study you read. But it's still not addressing corruption, which is the point of having them in the first place. And it never addresses that.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I mean, we're here to talk about Convention of States, and we've got to talk, when we talk about that, we've also got to talk about the Balanced Budget Amendment, which is meant to supposedly bring in the corruption from our inappropriate spending, but never touches it.
We may or may not get into the budget today. We'll see on that.
Okay.
See, here's the deal. Okay, so there was one more thing you just said on term limits that reminded me, and I don't know if I'm going to remember what it was. There's so much, and I just need to have them written down all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're just talking about the corruption, oh, doggone it. Oh,
The overall and then the
Erratic
number of incidents.
the erratic policy. California was one of the first states to give us term limits, and gee, folks, is that our model right there? How'd that work? Things going better? But what they did notice was that the spending went out of control because no one was concerned about being there when the roosters came home, right? Chickens came home to roost. So if you were, when the debt wasn't going to be incoming until 2 or 3 or 4 years and you were gone by that time, you had no concern. They also saw erratic policy, because one group would do this, the next group would do this, and they wouldn't know the history of why they'd done it before. As they used to say, don't remove the fences until you know why they were put up. And they didn't have that institutional knowledge. It was no longer there. So,
Yes.
and your leaders may have been in office 3 years, 4 years. We just had a House member say today, I'm in my 6th term and I am just learning more. I don't know it yet. So
Right.
Again, folks, let me just say it. It's not the quantity of terms served. It is the quality of service in the term. And so we, as elected officials, we as the electors have the responsibility and obligation and liberty to elect those we like as long as we wish. That is ours. And this removes that without solving any issues. There's no solution here.
I do remind people all the time that elections, by definition, are term limiters. And it's ridiculous that we need to put some mechanical limit on things when the entire point was to have the electorate elect the best people. Now, the problem is ultimately underlying everything, no matter the problem. We've got problems right now in Congress and at the state level, no matter the state you're in. And that is that we are not addressing the root causes. Instead, we are batting about the leaves, as I like to say, rather than cutting at the root. And so term limits are just leaves on the tree. The terms are just leaves on the tree, and they're never addressing the actual problem, whatever that may be.
Well
And
said.
so we've got to rethink. Madison told us the best thing, as you said, going to your point, we've got to get better elected officials in. We've got to elect better officials, which means that we as an electorate need to do a better job.
Absolutely.
But we also need to crack down and not allow all this corruption. We need to be decrying it. But I can't get people to decry Marxism. I mean, Marxism.
I know.
In the Republican Party, let alone the tyranny. We've got tyranny going on right now in Congress, and it's the Republicans pushing it. We,
All right, I'm
we
sorry, we're going to
don't-
time out.
Yeah.
Because I've got to get to John because you got to get on the road.
Sure.
You're going to election training.
Yes.
But why? The next election is
So we have a city council seat
Okay.
in the area where I am that was vacated, so they're holding a special election, and I get involved with that. So
you are involved. Okay, so before you go, the hearing yesterday.
yeah, so Iowa held a subcommittee hearing yesterday on a House resolution asking for a convention of states, and it was three people on the subcommittee. And I knew walking in, because I knew, you of course know all three legislators. I know their background. I know what the positions they have. So I knew it was going to come out of there with a 2-1 vote, 2 for, 1 against. It's exactly how it went.
Which is why I didn't take time out of the studio yesterday.
And you know, and this is my take, and you all can have a different take. But when you're the majority party in a chamber, will structure the membership on a committee to give them the result that they want. So they, you know, it's not random. So the 2 members of the majority party out there were both pro COS. The member representing the minority party was, I knew, would be a no vote because their party tends to, for whatever reason, be against it. So they heard it. One of the things that I found kind of interesting. So, you know, they wanted convention of states, and they list, I think, 3 reasons. One of those 3 reasons was that they want to have term limits. So I kind of narrowly focused mine on trying to get rid of that reason, you know, the term limits. And it's kind of funny because I had met with one of those Republicans on the committee and went over this data with him some time ago. And his response after he and I met, he said, well, he's not a term limits guy. And so then I'm thinking, if you're not a term limits guy, and this is, here we are downstream, why are you voting for a bill that says we need term limits? I mean,
they do this all the time. They don't know what they're voting for. They give us these arguments all the time. So this is what the bill said. This is 2004. That's what it was yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And so they're saying, this is the whereases. The founders of the Constitution of the United States empowered state legislators to be guardians of liberty against future abuses of power by the federal government. We agree. The federal government has created crushing national debt through improper and imprudent spending. We agree. The federal government invaded the legitimate roles of the states through the manipulative process of federal mandates, most of which are not unfunded to a great extent, which is why we say do the 10th Amendment and nullify. Yeah. We tell them that is your not just your opportunity, it's your obligation to nullify. The founding fathers told you that, warned you of that, whereas the government ceased to function under the proper interpretation of the Constitution. All right, so blah, 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 blah. And then they say they want this convention for the specific and exclusive purpose of amendments to limit the power and jurisdiction of the federal government, impose fiscal restraints on the federal government, and limit term limits, which this guy said he doesn't want. But again, David, John, define reign in government, fiscal restrictions. I mean, in Minnesota, that would be defunding ICE and the police. Yeah. You're sending these people to open up your Constitution to anything.
Yeah, well, in Minnesota, they're acting illegally because there's nothing unconstitutional about what ICE is doing there. In fact, it's just the opposite. Other than you might argue that it should be run through the militia and not through ICE directly, but that's a different issue. But the point is, they have no authority to be saying that. Nullification should be used on anything that is clearly unconstitutional. And unfunded mandates are clearly unconstitutional by definition. It's why senators for the longest time were appointed by the state legislatures on purpose to avoid all of this, and why the 17th Amendment needs to be repealed. But that's a separate issue. But again, your answer is already found in the Constitution. It's the 10th Amendment. Enforce it. Done.
Exactly. Yeah. Anything?
Yeah, I just want to say one of the more outspoken proponents of Article 5 here in Iowa, I was having a conversation with him one day, and so I said, well, what would you propose? I mean, what do you want the change to look like? And he said, well, I don't know yet. That's just a blank piece of paper. Really? You're going to put the Constitution at risk, and you have no clue what words you're going to do that's going to fix it.
All right, so Thomas.
And that echoes my discussion with Michael Ferris.
Okay. I mean, and we want to hear about
verbatim
that one.
Almost.
Viewers, you're going to want to hear about that. We're going to have to go to break, but you're going to want to hear about that. Okay, so we'll wait because I've got to go to break, but we'll bring up the photo of George Washington's concerns, which are exactly, they're mirroring exactly what you've said. No remedy. There's absolutely no remedy mentioned. All right, we've got to go to our break. We've got David Oldman, and we've got John Stratman, and Michael Boyle will be joining us, hopefully from the State House in South Dakota. Stay tuned. Right back.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
This is our new NutraSwish, Numi NutraSwish. You can find more information at Numi, neumi.com/TTSS. neumi.com/TTSS, one of the products we offer because you all have different preferences and respond differently to different items. So this is our lavender. It's for ladies anywhere along your journey. No hormones in it, but if you're taking a hormonal supplement, you might want to check with your doctor. The blue is for anyone over the age of 18. It has glutathione, which is a antioxidant, helps with over 400 cellular functions, and it helps detox heavy metals, forever chemicals, graphene oxide, one of those terms we learned after 2020, and it helps detox glyphosate. The good glutathione helps detox glyphosate. Glyphosate is found in ag chemicals or lawn chemicals, and some are very concerned about possible links to cancers, HPVs, and diabetes. But the blue bottle, the glutathione, helps detox heavy metals, forever chemicals, graphene oxide, and glyphosate. Then there's the mango-colored bottle you see on your screen. Numi Neuro helps with your mind, your memory, and your focus. Now, again, after 2020, we heard something about brain fog, a term we'd not heard before. Whether it's from a virus or a vaccine, many have found relief, a little help, with Numi Neuro, the mango-colored bottle. When used with the blue bottle, it is so positive that the American Brain Council wrote about it, and it looked like an endorsement. Though we're told they don't write endorsements, it was simply a positive review of what they saw. You can find more information at Numi, neumi.com/TTSS, neumi.com/TTSS for the Tamara Scott Show. Why? Because we want you feeling your best. And when you use that TTSS link, you help us be our best. All right. So thank you so much. John Stratman was with us earlier. He's stepped out. We still have David Oldman. David, we'll bring you back into the Tamara Scott Show. And thank you for joining us all the way from Oklahoma. And then we're talking about the Convention of States, the Article 5 Convention, and this bill that came through Iowa. And as I said to you, I mean, the very things, there's nothing clear on there. Fiscal restraints, limiting government. What does that mean? All right, so Thomas, if you can, let's put up the photo of page 26. Page 26. And I didn't bring my book into the studio, but this is out of the book. I probably should have showed you the cover first, but it's The Formation of the Union under the Constitutions by Sol Bloom. Thank you for getting that on there, Thomas. So this is page 26. This is George Washington they're talking about. And above all, he disapproved of the idea of a second convention, which was one of the favorite proposals of the Anti-Federalist. He had too much knowledge of the difficulties met in the first gathering to believe that a second one could do any better, especially as there was no agreement among those opposed to the proper remedy. No agreement to a proper remedy. There was nothing, in his opinion, constructive in their arguments against the Constitution. They were all addressed to the passions of the people and obviously calculated to alarm their fears. David Ullman, I don't think they've changed their game. I think they're still using the same playbook. They have absolutely no specific remedy yet, and it's always about the fear. While Santorum will mock those of us who oppose it and say it's all because of our fear, they're the ones who are promoting the fear as if this is the only way to correct it. Ferris has said this is the only way to correct it. And when we brought up nullification, he was almost condescending of nullification as if that weren't really in the Constitution, that were in just some letter. When it actually is what the 10th Amendment. It's very, very well documented and used. So, David, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, the entire point that the Federalists, Washington, Madison, Hamilton, and so forth, made was that if a power is not specifically enumerated to the federal government, by definition, it is nullified. So nullification is in the original Constitution. It's not there just because of the 10th. The 10th was there to give unequivocal verbiage to the whole thing. and was there because of the passions of the people. The people spoke, and they agreed with the anti-federalists that there needed to be some explicit language to keep the bad actors from stepping into a space and turning everything around and saying, hey, if it's not there, then we can do it. Whereas that's 180 degrees off of the way it's supposed to be run. And so nullification is inherent in the Constitution. And that's why we have three branches, because the three branches are supposed to be nullifying. And then you have the states, and they're supposed to be able to nullify. And then you get Madison and Jefferson, who both wrote nullification documents passed by their legislatures in 1798 when the Alien and Sedition Acts came out. So nullification is not anything new. It's inherent. So we've got to get over that and quit listening to liars, because everybody who tells you this stuff that nullification doesn't exist is lying. Up one side, down the other. That's all they are doing is lying. If their mouth is moving, they're lying.
You used the L word. I need to be clear. He didn't say it didn't exist. He just poo-hooed it as if it weren't used very often, or wasn't, like, it was minimal, and it just was not well known. And that was on Simon Conway's show. So they had to have me on the next day because the public said, we want to hear a rebuttal. So I went on the next day to refute it. And they wouldn't hardly talk about it. Let me just tell you, they kept going to other issues, wouldn't hardly talk about it. All right. So. Right. So you brought up the L word, a very strong word. We have had issues with, I call it faults. I will say that it's misrepresentation, or they have faults. They're giving false information. You're much more straightforward in yours. Tell our viewers why.
False equals lies. False equals lies. That's no ifs, ands, or buts. Let's not pussyfoot around the issue. Let's call balls and strikes exactly what they are. Falsehoods are lies. And so you cannot spread that without me calling you just what you are. So,
all right. So to our viewers, I mean, here's what we're hearing now, that they're not going to go after supposedly cuts in spending at a convention. They're not going to go after entitlements. When we've just had Minnesota at what is it, 9 billion with a B or with a tree? I think it's a B in fraud in the Somali luring centers and other.
We're up around 21 to 30 billion.
Okay.
Just in that state, let alone every other state.
But supposedly, what someone said is that they're not going to go after entitlements, which is, I mean, the public would be with you if you would go after these entitlements at this point. And they're not even going to push for a BBA, they said. But they're going to go after this judge is limiting the court to 9, which we have Ferris on record. I should have put the tape up, saying he'd like 50 Supreme Court justices like European Court. But then 2 minutes later, same speech, same mic, same seat, says, or we could abolish the Supreme Court. Again, David, no remedy. You have no parameters. You have no idea where they're going to go. Even on the limited topics they say they would use, they're now saying they're not, and they're adding in new ones.
Well, let me let your audience in on a little deep, dark secret about the Convention of States Project. Michael Ferris told me directly that he does not want to speak publicly about actual solutions. He just wants to get to convention. Now, he never said why, but that we must get to convention, and then we'll hash all this stuff out basically from there. But the problem is, everybody I have met and spoken with who is involved with Convention of States has not a single clue about the Constitution itself, and can actually deal substantively, as you've been well pointing out all so long, cannot substantively deal with or address the actual problems that we have. I mean, and does this mean that they're Marxists? Because entitlements are Marxist, pure and utter Marxism. There is no ifs, ands, or buts, and it's about time we as Republicans started calling it what it is. It is socialist, communist, Marxist, whatever, but it is Marxist, and we're either against it or we're Marxists. And
let's clarify, we're not against helping people in need, but God gave us very clear direction on how to do that. The church or the charity. It is your tithe dollar, your offering, not your tax as a citizen. And for just
can't
these
be extorted.
Yes.
In this, they want to extort it out of us rather than allowing us to actually give charitably.
Yeah.
And I don't know their motivation, but the point is that they are prohibited. All Marxism is illegal according to the Constitution. Read the Due Process and Takings Clause of the Fifth Amendment, and then the similar clauses in the 14th Amendment. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Marxism is illegal throughout the United States.
To that point, Robert Brown has said in his speeches oftentimes on this topic, do you think today many people are more aligned with Marx or with Madison, who gave us the brilliant document we have?
Yeah, I think if you honestly look at that question, the answer is unequivocal. And I am rebuked all the time for bringing up Madison and quoting Madison, often without attribution, because I'm just trying to throw out what he said to see what kind of reaction I get. It's Marxist in response to Madison.
I'm stunned by this. Why wouldn't you want to talk about solutions? If you had a solution, why wouldn't you want to share it, educate the people so they're aware of it? This makes me question because, one, because I have said it before, convention of states, if they have the people that they say they have, which I'm not convinced they do, why don't they do what Robert Brown has recommended? 300 in every congressional district, just 300 people. And if you called your congressional member and held them accountable, that's not constitutional. This is not constitutional. This would be a better solution. He said you would change their votes. You would hold them in line with the Constitution. And so why doesn't Convention of States, that politically active PAC, high dollar lobbyist group, why don't they put their effort into helping Americans know the Constitution like you're doing so that we can all better uphold it? Our founders said, the educated for your liberties, to educate people was the best solution. Why not give us those remedies so we can help put those in place now, unless their goal is to open up that Constitution and put it at risk? I am not convinced that they are concerned about correcting anything as much as they want to just open it up. And who would have influence, whether it's WF, WHO, globalist, outsiders who've already tried to have influence, and we worry about the lobbyist corruption at that level when there is some accountability of being reelected. But David, with a delegate, one, you can't control the delegates, and two, it's a one-time gig, so there'd be absolutely no accountability for this corruption.
I couldn't agree more. I don't have an answer to the question. When things get really wacky and there's no logical explanation, look to the money.
Yeah.
Because, and I just say that, I don't know if that's where it is. I just say, look to the money, because it is so illogical what they are doing that it makes no sense. Now, back to why we can't get this done and get elected officials to actually talk about this. There is a conundrum, and that is, I can't remember who said it, but they said when the people discover that they can vote themselves other people's money, that will be the beginning of our decline, or something to that effect. The problem is we never have been allowed to vote ourselves other people's money. It's been allowed to take place, And because it is in play pragmatically, we'll just say pragmatically, by practice, therefore then, in order to be reelected, in order to continue the supposed good work you're doing, you've got to get reelected. So therefore you have to placate the Marxists, and then Stockholm syndrome takes over, and even the right-hand side of the room goes Marxist and starts thinking that at least mild Marxism, conservative Marxism, is okay in one way, shape, or form. And then they start promoting it. You're never getting reelected when you come in and speak like I do and shoot straight from the hip and call it what it is. I'm not getting myself elected in that kind of an environment. I don't expect to. But I hope that, just speaking straight, we can get people to wake up and thereby give cover to people in elected position who will actually begin speaking out. But the weakest among us are going to be our elected officials. The weakest in dialogue and so forth is going to be our elected officials, because they're afraid of the repercussions, terrified.
As long as we can reelect them or eject them. But when we lose that right, they're not going to be so afraid of us. They will not have fear from us. So term limits only limit your liberty. They do not solve any problem we're talking about. They only limit, and they will create apathy, because people will wait for the next open seat before they challenge somebody that they're not sure may run again or may not run again. So you're going to create more apathy by trying to decrease it. We've got to go to our break. David, can you hang around a little bit more?
Sure.
Okay. All right. We'll be right back. And hopefully Michael Boyle will join us as well from South Dakota. Stay tuned.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work, try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home, went to bed.
All right. We're back. Michael Boyle has not joined us yet. He may not be able to. He is lobbying, trying to save that state from falling to a convention and their call. Voted out of committee, it failed yesterday in committee. But they're trying 3 more. I guess in that state, you have 3 days if someone does a certain motion to try and get it to pass, which is really strange to me and really unfortunate. Why even bother with a committee if that's the case? But we haven't heard back from him. David Oldman is joining me from Oklahoma. David, I don't know if we've discussed this or not, but Santorum has said on record in Iowa in hearings, South Dakota on video, he wants a convention every 5 years, a constitutional convention every 5 years. To me, you want to talk about centralized government. You want to talk about the Congress will, I mean, look what a presidential election does and a lame duck and what that does to Congress. Imagine people waiting to see what the Constitution may say after this convention, or even our state legislators, I think, will be paralyzed waiting to see what the new Constitution. Countries that change their constitutions a lot seem to be volatile and violent. It's no longer about elections, it's about coups, and people are even killed for power. I can't imagine that's a good idea, but when we talk, we're not hearing their remedies, we just hear a lot of ideas.
Yeah, well, I think that Santorum may actually have gotten the 5-year idea from Thomas Jefferson, who foresaw, not that he was calling for it, but foresaw regular constitutional conventions. And he thought that it would be on the average of every 5-ish years. that there would be things that needed to be changed. He saw things that he thought probably could be cleaned up a little bit, and he thought that that would be happening. So that wouldn't be the problem. The problem is the lack of constitutional understanding and concern, because Rick Santorum was not known as a little itty bitty spender when he was in the Senate. He went along with a lot of big government stuff and illegal stuff, unconstitutional stuff. And so I think we have a problem here, that we have a guy who didn't uphold the Constitution when he was in office telling us that we need to change the Constitution now. Why? Because it's not being enforced, so we got to have something to enforce it. No, you just need to go enforce it. And it's really super simple. Let's keep it simple, and let's just remember just whose mouths these things are coming from, and let's get them to actually admit that they were wrong. If he admits that he was really wrong in the Senate, maybe we'd have something to talk about. Again, the problem isn't the Constitution itself. It's the people who make up the convention and the constitutional knowledge of the populace, which has for the last 100+ years been turned Marxist. So we have got to have a period of time where we retake the Constitution, have government begin to enforce it. Then maybe we could start talking about a Constitution, because then and only then might we be safe having one.
So now I'm in a quandary. We've got Michael Boyle from South Dakota. Michael, let's bring you into the discussion. And my quandary is, because there's more you haven't told us. There is a more to that story you haven't told us, David Oldman, but I want to hear, is Michael here from South Dakota? Did I hear? Do we have Michael? Michael, can you hear me?
I can. How are you doing?
All right. So what's the latest out of South Dakota, Michael? We've got maybe just a couple minutes.
Yeah. In South Dakota, they are considering the Convention of States resolution. Went through the Senate side a few weeks ago, and it died on the House Committee, House State Affairs, on yesterday morning. And so now they are working to, what's that?
We updated our viewers, so just tell us
the
latest.
They're working to smoke it out is what they're working on right now.
Okay. Do you want to share what was it Santorum said to you about they're not going to come after cuts to spending? They're not going to.
Yeah. So in our hearing yesterday in House State Affairs, and you can go on that South Dakota House State Affairs and you can look at that YouTube video yourselves. But he said in his rebuttal that the only thing that's going to make it through a convention is something that is very, very popular on all sides of the spectrum. And so he said that he did not expect a balanced budget amendment or any cuts, any major cuts to things like Social Security, Medicaid, or anything like that that would have a significant impact on balancing the budget to come out of a convention of states. And so on the one hand, he's saying this is the tool that we need to balance the budget, to get these things through. And then on the other hand, when people are saying, hey, is this going to be something where we should be concerned? He says, no, nothing will come out of this committee that is actually going to be meaningful.
Did he use the word meaningful?
No. What he used the word is there's not going to be any cuts to the, he didn't use welfare, but there's a different word that people always forget that word. But what's that?
Is it the entitlements? Is that what he's saying?
Yeah, entitlement. There's no cuts to entitlements, and that there would not be a balanced budget amendment. We would not balance the budget.
Why, either of you, and we're pushing our time here, but they've spent millions traveling, time away from their families, pushing this, and they've got nothing. What are they pushing?
I think they just really, really want a convention, and they'll just, say what people want to hear.
That's it.
And you, the viewer, better figure out why. Because we have heard time and again, court cases and otherwise, you cannot control delegates. Once they're in a convention, Anything can go. You can suspend the rules. The Constitution of the United States was brought in when they tossed out the Articles of Confederation. They were supposed to amend or revise. So we could end up with a totally new document. Gentlemen, I'm sorry, but we are so out of time, and I would love to continue this discussion. I hope you will both join me another day. Michael, when you're not there trying to lobby and save your state, I hope you have good speed doing that. David, I hope you'll join us, because there's a cliffhanger here. There's a story we haven't got to hear it. I'd like our viewers to hear it. They're going to want to hear it. All right, we got to go right now. Thank you, both of you, and to John Chapman as well, for just fighting for the great document we have. Webster said, be careful of this Constitution. Protect it. Miracles don't happen in clusters. Protect this one. And we've given you ample examples. They have no remedy, no clear remedy yet. As we tell you, live boldly, love better, laugh bigger, be encouraged, never be complacent, and be ready for Valentine's Day.